do defensively. Want to keep focusing on continuing to get him to communicate better. But I'm glad he's here and getting the spring ball in for sure.
I know it's a really hard position there, but what we're seeing from him, is it just kind of his natural playmaking, or does he actually have an idea of what you guys want?
It's a combination of both. I think he's feeling his way somewhat, but if you look at his tape from high school, he had a really good nose for the football and played with really good instincts, and you see it showing up now. We just got to get him saying the correct things when he's out there, but he does play sideline to sideline.
Is he a little further along than a typical true freshman?
He is. I mean, we're trying to narrow down, hopefully, between now and soon in fall camp, who we're going to have next to Marvell. So I think it's important that piece plays together. Those two safeties and maybe the safety with the combination of the nickelback all play together. But we're obviously letting that go play itself out.
How have you felt about Achille?
He's done a nice job. He's playing two positions, the nickelback and the safety. He's made a lot of progress. I think there are certain things he needs to continue to get better on, and I think these last few practices, he's really going to focus on those things. We had a good conversation earlier today about the things he needed to work on, and I'm excited about seeing how he's going to do finishing up spring.
In particular, at strong safety, are you referring to?
Yes.
Those things? But, I mean, it's big shoes to fill. You had a captain back there for a couple of years, Hawkins. What would be the next step for Achille?
I think to fill in that role. We need somebody to fill in there with Marvell where he can get comfortable playing with that guy on a more of a consistent basis. But you talk about YK, you talk about Bubba, you talk about Isaiah's doing a really nice job. We just can't. Isaiah just can't do everything because he's coming off the shoulder surgery. But in terms of his assignments and his communication when he's in there, it's pretty spot on.
Really? Okay. What about Bubba?
Bubba is he's up and down.
Okay.
Up and down. He has good days. He has bad days. I think he had a good day today. He just needs to be more consistent. I think it's going to come with playing.
How have you felt about competition at that linebacker spot?
Well, John started most every game for us last year, and I thought he really played well down the stretch. We're working Levi in there a lot, and also working Levi as an edge rusher on third down. So we're trying to find a way to get Levi on the field so at times we can have our best 11 out there, because he's clearly one of the most athletic guys that we have.
Is there someone that's been like a vocal leader like Chris Hawkins last year, someone kind of taking that role?
Cam Smith has really taken on quite that leadership role. I think Iman Marshall has really taken more of a leadership role than what he's done. I think now that he's a senior, he kind of feels that. Porter, he leads by example, but you hear him more.
Okay.
And Marvell's really stepped up his game from that standpoint.
How has Iman Marshall progressed? It seems like he's doing a lot better.
He really has. We've had some good conversations since the season ended. I think he knows he needs to practice better. Some of his practice habits were based off of injury and fighting through things, but he has got to continue to practice at a high level so he can play at a high level. And if you look at the way he played against Ohio State, he practiced really well in the preparation for that bowl game, and I think he was able to feel that difference because we really pushed him. And he knows he has to do that to have the type of year that he wants to have and that we need to have as a defense out of him.
Any of the kind of freshmen that have come in early really stood out to you so far? Or?
Talanoa has done a very nice job at the safety position. He's behind. I would say Kanai's done the best job of any of the young guys.
Right. Why so? What are you seeing from him?
Pardon me?
With Kanai, what are you getting from him?
Well, Kanai is very consistent. He's a conscientious player. He does things the right way most of the time, and if he makes a mistake, he recognizes it. He plays with really good pad level and has a really good foot quickness. He's a good enough athlete to play behind the ball or up on the line of scrimmage, so he gives us flexibility. Now, we have to leave him in one spot right now, but I think as you see his career progress, he has got the talent to play as a stack linebacker, and that's a unique ability to have, to be able to do both, but I think he has that ability.
I know Jordan hasn't been 100%, but are you pleased with what you're getting from him?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I think he's suited, once again, to be one of our top 11 guys, so we got to find a way to get him on the field. He's probably more of a natural stack inside linebacker, but he can play outside, and he's got a really good knack for what we're doing defensively, and so that's probably where he'll play most of his snaps next year.
Has either Kanai or Talanoa kind of surprised you from what you saw, like on film and when you were the recruiting process?
Kanai, definitely, just because we had very limited tape on him, and we really got to look at him at camp, and that's where Coach Danson, brought him to us and brought us to, the attention of his ability. But I would say he would be the most. But it's a good young group. A guy like Jay Tufeli, who redshirted last year, has probably made more progress than anybody, even though he's been here for a year as a freshman. So it's a fun group to work with.
Yeah, the team seemed pretty fired up when he had the interception.
Oh yeah, everybody likes Jay. I mean, Jay's a disruptive force, and he is a guy that a lot of people are going to hear about this year, I believe.
Christian Rector, you don't have him anymore at the Predator spot. How have you felt about him as a down lineman?
He's got unique ability. He does a really nice job of feeling blocks, and he's slippery inside. He played outside this week for us in some situations, but once again, he's going to give us that flexibility where we can use him in some speed rush packages on third down. We want to get our fast guys out there, and also inside and outside. It's just he's kind of a jack of all trades for us.
I know you get constantly asked about rotating more, but I'm wondering, do you feel like you actually have more depth, or is it too early to call that?
I think it's a little bit too early, but when you look at the sheer numbers of just skill and talent, there's more people out there than what we've had in the past, and between now and camp, they'll play their way into whether or not they're how much time they're going to get. But surely numbers-wise, it's the most we've had since I've been here.
Helton said earlier in camp that he would like to see more rotating. Are you on board with that?
Yeah, he's the head coach, so if that's what he wants, he'll get that done.
Yeah, but it's your defense.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're going to do the best. We're going to do what's best for us to give us the best chance to win. And so, if guys play up to their ability and practice well, then they'll get an opportunity to play when the time comes. But a lot of times, a lot of that is based off of how the game's going and where the game is in the balance, and how we feel about that situation, because you want your best players out there when the game's on the line.
Progress have you seen from Jay Tufeli?
I've seen a big jump in his technique. I've seen a big jump in him knowing what we're doing defensively. So he's playing at a very fast pace right now. He's not having to think very much. There's very few mental errors. He's been very active for us. And he's gotten more reps because Peely's been injured the last couple practices. So that's really benefited him and benefited us as a defense to get him out there more. He's a 300-pound kid that can really move. And he's got a big motor and very strong.
Today seemed like an especially spirited day on defense between yourself and then obviously the big celebration they had. What was kind of going on out there today?
Well, we wanted to come out here with an attitude, and we really talked about not loafing at practice. And so as a defensive staff, we count how many guys are in the picture at the end of the framework. I'd like to get all 11, but usually you'd like to get somewhere in that 8 or 9 guy area. So we came out here with the focus today to really chase the ball, and the guys knew that I was going to keep it pretty simple for them, where we could play fast and get a lot of guys swarming to the ball. And so the red zone period down here that we had was good for us, and I think it brought a lot of energy to the defense.
Jonathan Lockett, he was a guy who was here when you were here previously, correct?
I recruited him.
Okay.
He signed after I left in 2013. I watched him play in high school and got him offered him when I was here before as the coordinator. Yeah.
Okay, so now that he's in his final season here and coming off a redshirt season, what have you seen from him this spring?
Really, really proud of him. I think 2016 he started for us initially as a nickelback and got injured, and that's when the J&A moved in. He's fought through the hip surgeries, being out a year and a half. He still continued to come to the meetings when he could, and was really into the defense and wanted to know everything. And you can really see it carry over into his play now. And as you could see him today, if there's some periods where he was running with the first group at cornerback, and he's earned that. I mean, if you look at his production and the amount of times he does things right, the amount of times he gets his hands on balls, it's been really impressive. So his production's been good, and I'm real happy and proud for the kid.
Clancy, where's this defense improved the most to you through the spring?
I just think continuity. We wanted to shave some things off of what we were doing, maybe try to simplify some things where we could play a little bit faster. And I think anytime you can have close to a little over half of your guys coming back that have got a lot of experience going into the third year, they don't have to think about hearing the call. So I think it's allowed a good abundance of those guys to really improve in their technique. And I can see that as probably the biggest difference on all three levels of the defense. The guys that have been here, their technique's really improved.
Are you coaching them up a little differently because they're in a different place, that you can coach them like a little more refined in ways to coach from cornerbacks and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it can be a little bit more specific. I spend most of my time with the inside backers and the safeties. You know, we rotate through the individual periods with the backers and the safeties between myself and the other assistant coaches. And then we meet together I meet with the inside backers and the safeties most of the time. Sometimes the corners are in there as well, but mostly it's those two groups. But I think that, you know, we can compartmentalize things maybe a little bit for the guys that have been here and maybe appear to do less but are doing maybe more just because they have a good feel for what we want defensively. But I think, you know, like I mentioned earlier, the biggest jump has been really the technique. Just the guys, they don't have to think as much, they can really focus in on their play and so we can show them, hey, this is what you looked like 2 years ago, here's what you looked like last year, and this is what you look like now, and this is the product we want.
You guys have more ability to coach technique now.
They understand the system. Not that we weren't before. We obviously were. That's first and foremost always is defense. But you also are trying to get things in that are going to give your schematically the best opportunity for the guys to do, you know, to play well. Any, you know, I've been a coordinator now for a handful of years and installed defenses different places at the college and the pro level, and I've never been one to want to say, okay, here's film of another group doing it at a different school or a different team. I want that team to identify with, hey, this is USC guys doing it. I don't want to show maybe Arizona Cardinals or Cal or Kansas City or San Francisco 49ers. All the, you know, hey, this is how it's supposed to look. I want us to learn that on their own. And so I think this year we've been able to dive back into the guys in the first 2 years of the system and then tie that in with some NFL clips like this is really how it's supposed to look. But I think the game slowing down to a lot of guys has really helped us make improvement.
How much does Porter set the tone for your defense?
You know, he's definitely the trendsetter. He gets guys going, and you know he leads by example. But this year you're hearing him more with his voice, getting guys going. You know, there's not a guy that's got more energy and juice than him. And I think this going into his senior year, and he's got a bad taste in his mouth about the time that he missed last year, and it was just amazing the injury part that he did fight through, that he did play, was unbelievable. But I think you'll see him take more of a leadership role this year.
What's that play he made?
What's that?
That play he made, getting his hands up.
Oh yeah, we just worked on batted balls, you know, today.
So he said that was the Chenna move. I mean, is it nice to have Chenna is gone, but then you got a guy that goes out there?
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's nice
to see that things translate that we work on individually, and you know we worked on that stuff really the last 2 years. And so anytime you see something happen in a drill and it happen in a team setting, you're obviously happy about this.
Is he kind of a similar spring to what Chenna had last year? The number of plays he's making out there?
It feels that way. Chenna was really tough to deal with for our offense last year, and I kind of sensed that when Porter's out there. We got, you know, a handful of guys that we limit some in the live type drills where it's full tackling. We've seen enough snaps of them. I think I put up the number of snaps of each guy that played last year, and there's quite a few guys that got 700, 800, 900 plays, so I don't need to see them that much. So when it's a live 11 on 11, maybe they don't get as much, but you really can feel his presence out there, and I think he was really going to have a big year for us last year as a pass rusher, and you know really worked on rolling off the front foot, not false stepping. And when you watch his one-on-one pass rush and in team type settings, you can really see that transforming over now too.
Does having him give you kind of more confidence with someone like Chenna, just in terms of plays to be able to make?
I think so. I think his change of direction has gotten better. There's been certain things that he's needed to work on in his game, and he's worked on those things. Chenna is very unique. He's going to be hard to replace, but you know we got to move on and move up with the next guy. And we have a pretty diverse set of outside linebackers and what they can do physically and athletically, and you know it's kind of a good problem to have.